Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining me this week on Newsmakers. Well, a lot of agencies are serving members of our community, and today we're focusing on Crosslines of Joplin. It's been around for nearly 40 years, helping people and continues to do so. Joining me, Rodney Rambo, the Executive Director. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
A little bit of background. I mentioned Crosslines has been a part of our community for a long time. So someone walks up to you and says, what is Crosslines? What's your basic definition for them?
Yeah, Crosslines is a vessel through which the local church and local businesses and just the local community can meet the needs of the working poor in our city.
Okay. So a lot of different needs that you're looking at then. When people think, well, Crosslines, that's where they get food, but there's a lot of different things that you serve.
Yeah, I mean, food's definitely the biggest thing that we do. We have a crisis food pantry where folks can come and a few times a year could get up to a month's worth of food for a family. We have basically a small grocery store set up in there. We also distribute monthly TFAP commodities, which is a service that's provided through the federal government that is just a small amount of food that helps subsidize folks who are on food stamps. We distribute clothing and houseware items, and we also are one of the primary distributors of rent and utility assistance in our community. So we're one of the only places you can get help with those things as well.
Great. And now we have a picture behind us. This is your location. So people say, where are you located?
Yeah, this is our location. We've been in this building just a few years now over there in historic East Town. And Yep, this is us, 320 South School Avenue.
Great. Well, the background, you mentioned churches involved. Started off kind of small, but really has grown throughout those 38 years.
Yeah, Crosslines, 1982. A group of just about a dozen churches came together and decided we really could do benevolence ministry better if we pooled our resources together to do that. So Crosslines started as just this small group of churches. They opened up a food pantry together in the basement of a building downtown. And over the years that grew and more churches came on board, and Crosslines has just continued to grow. Crosslines is unique in that way, and that we're not really just a standalone organization. I mean, it really is still the local church that funds and supports, and Crosslines is really just an extension of what the local church is doing in our community.
And that you say they fund, but they also perhaps contribute food. A lot of different ways those churches are helping you.
Food, manpower. I mean, Crosslines, we've been around 38 years, serving at times as many as 2,000 people a month, and we have never had a full-time employee. So we depend on about 7 part-time employees. But the reason we've never had a full-time employee is because we have a volunteer base of about 150 folks that are mainly local church members. So there are 5 to 12 volunteers at Crosslines every single day, and that's the reason we're able to exist and provide the services we do.
It sounds like it's really neighbors helping neighbors then.
It is.
People who live here are helping people who also live here.
That's exactly right. I mean, Crosslines is a place where you come, and it's not theoretical. You're not helping somebody you won't see. I mean, when somebody comes to Crosslines to get food assistance, the person who puts their food in their basket, it's not me, it's not a staff member, it's one of your neighbors. They're the ones who load your bag, they're the ones who help you with your cart, they're the ones who are helping you in the pantry, and that's intentional. They're the ones who greet you when you come in. It's never been a staff member in that role, and that's that's intentional.
So it really shows the importance of those volunteers
Absolutely,
in the organization.
100%.
And tying that together.
Yeah.
Well, someone who's watching might want to know about the area served. We're saying, Crosslines with Joplin. So what's your service area?
So we serve folks who live in the Joplin, Webb City, and Carl Junction school districts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one of the qualifications then?
That is one of the qualifications. Yeah, just it used to be just Joplin, Webb City, Carl Junction city limits, and then just a couple of years ago we expanded that to encompass each of those school districts. So that's how we determine eligibility. If you live outside of those limits, we have a list and can help just put you in contact with those who provide these services in your area.
So there's resources in other communities that people can
in
go
most,
to. Right.
Yeah, in most other areas.
Right. We use the term emergency food pantry. Let's explain that process, how that works, for people who need assistance.
Yeah. So, I mean, many people in our community work really hard, and but they live paycheck to paycheck, and when a hard time comes up, they that grocery purchase, you can have to choose between purchasing groceries or paying your electric bill, and we want to step in and be able to help in that situation. I grew up in a low-income neighborhood here in Joplin with parents who worked really hard, but they worked retail, and they just wasn't always enough with 3 kids. So I learned from a young age, a lot of people in our community work really hard, but it's just not always enough. And so when that transmission goes out, when that, all of a sudden school clothes have to be bought, when that unexpected, thing comes up that makes it hard to put groceries on the table, that's where Crosslines can step in during that emergency, during that crisis period.
Right. Of course, people are, I'm sure, curious right now, talking about crisis and challenges, the COVID-19 effects on Crosslines.
Yeah, who's not in a crisis right now? No, absolutely. I mean, we, in March, when things really started to pick up here in the U.S., at least in our region, we saw unprecedented numbers. We were seeing as many as 150 people a day. We had cars that were blocking 4th Street because of the number of people that were coming in. I think March and April were a lot like that. We've seen that number taper off a little bit, but we're still seeing just a lot of folks who still are without work. There's been local, there were layoffs notices a couple months ago. Some of those folks in different industries have found out they're not going back to work. So we anticipate the remainder of this year and likely going into 2021, we're going to continue to see numbers unlike we've seen before.
So when we had that shutdown back in March and April, there were people who they couldn't go to work because their businesses were shut. Then they weren't getting those paychecks. They had to come to you for assistance.
Absolutely. March and April were some of the highest numbers we've seen in 38 years. I mean, probably the highest numbers comparable to after the tornado. That would probably be the only other time I could compare to that. Right. And it was because, all at one time, all of the food service workers in our city needed assistance, and in addition to several other industries. So March and April were really, really trying times.
So even though we're having the economy pick up right now, and some people going back to work, there's still restrictions. I need to say there's some that have been told, unfortunately, we're not going to reopen.
There are, and that's not just, that's not just entry-level positions. I mean, there are a lot of businesses in our community that are having to adjust to that time and are laying off and limiting. Just kind of trimming up during this time. And so we anticipate there will be folks from all kinds of backgrounds that will continue to need assistance.
Well, what's the process if someone needs assistance? What do they have to register? Explain, what's the process if somebody says, I've lost my job, they laid me off, or, I'm furloughed, I don't have the money, and so forth. What do you do for that?
Yeah, so when you come into Crosslines, there's just a few things that we need to see. We need ID, social security card for each person in the home, just so we can verify who all lives in the home. Right. We need a proof of address, just a utility bill, something showing you live in one of those school districts. And then if you are employed currently, we need income verification, just to make sure that you income qualify. Our income qualifications are pretty generous, but we do just have to verify that. So you bring those 4 things, come in during our open hours, which are posted on our website. Right. And then we can sit down with you and see how we can help that day. If you're needing electric or rental assistance, that application process is a little different. You just go to our website, and that's done totally online right now.
So you register, and then you become eligible to come back and get the food.
No, so when you bring those items the day you come in, you're going to get food that day. And honestly, if you come in, oftentimes people come in and maybe they're missing one thing or they don't have this thing. I mean, our catchphrase at Crosslines is to err on the side of grace. And so our folk, we're not, most of the time we're not going to send you out empty-handed. If you haven't been here before, you're going to leave with some food. But those are the things we need to establish services.
Do you find that perhaps with the challenges we've had recently that some people have never had to do this before? It's like, I've never had to ask for help, but now I do.
People who've lived here for 30 years and didn't know where Crosslines was until the last couple months. Yeah, we've seen a lot of that, especially with our rent and utility assistance. A lot of folks that have been working hard for a long time, now all of a sudden figuring out how to pay rent next month while you're laid off has become really difficult. So we've had a lot of first-time clients.
Rent and utility assistance. How does that work? How long, or how do you help people along those lines? The timetables, or what's involved with that type of assistance?
Yeah, so we can help one time, one time in a calendar year, and again, just like our food assistance. I mean, that's meant to be for a crisis situation. Right. So if somebody we can pay up to 1 month's rent in most circumstances for somebody who's been in a place for a little while, has a history of paying, but has just come across a one-time crisis. The big thing with the rental assistance is that we have to confirm that this is next month you're going to be back on track. So there has to be income coming into the home because we have a limited pool of funds. Right. We can't help if it looks like eviction is probably coming next month anyway. So you have to have income coming in. We have to be able to show that if we help this one time, that should put you back on track the next month. So we do about $50,000 a year in rent and utility assistance. And then utility assistance, it's not something we always do, but we have received a generous donation from Liberty Utilities to help during this time of crisis. And so right now, if you have, we encourage people to go to Economic Security first because their funding window is limited. So if you've applied with Economic Security, gone through that process, and maybe by technicality of some sort you didn't get approved, a lot of times we can step in and help. And then inevitably when Economic Security runs out of funding, we'll be providing a lot of electric assistance. Of
course, summertime, the air conditioners are still going to run. The lights still have to stay on. So it's a challenging time of year for electric bills.
Yeah, no question. And there are during that time, March and April, we were talking about, a lot of folks are still trying to catch up on their electric bill from a couple month period where maybe they weren't able to pay. Right. So a lot of folks playing catch up, and we're happy to help any way we can.
And let's talk about the food distribution process. You mentioned, lines of people waiting to get in to get the food, and you mentioned a grocery store concept. So how does it work when somebody shows up and says, I need some food, and they've gone through the process, they're approved, and what do you do?
So right now we are back in our building. There for a while it was drive-in order. But right now we are in our building, so you come in, we have grocery carts. So typically in a non-COVID time period, you would go through, just like a grocery store. We have a small grocery store, you push your cart and pick what you need for the people in your home. Right now everything is pre-boxed in order to keep things as safe as we can during this COVID period. So we're definitely not back to normal yet, but right now, you come and you will get a food box based off the number of people in your home.
Types of foods? We always think of canned food drives. I'm sure that's more than just cans of vegetables and fruits and things
Absolutely.
like that.
So we depend on and are extremely blessed by local retailers that donate to Crosslines. So we have a couple of amazing truck drivers that go every day to Target, Walmart, Aldi, Come and Go, Sam's Club, and pick up a lot of the excess. And so a lot of those things are what you'll see on our shelves, and that's from meat to pastry items to bakery goods, all of those things. And then we purchase about 60% of our own food from Ozarks Food Harvest. And so I just imagine a condensed grocery store, a lot of the same things you would see, just lesser quantity. In addition to that, we have a greenhouse and garden beds. So in the spring and summer, we're able to produce about 70% of our own produce on site. The Ozark Master Gardeners do a great job of managing that for us, and so we're able to have fresh produce on the shelves each day.
Great. So those fresh tomatoes right out of the garden
Absolutely,
back.
Absolutely. Right out back.
Right. We'll talk a little bit about the Ozarks Food Harvest. People have heard about that and how that helps support your organization, because that's based in Springfield, correct?
They are, yep. And Ozarks Food Harvest is part of the Feed America program. You probably hear recently, I feel like there's a lot of national commercials aimed at supporting Feed America. So basically, through Ozark Food Harvest, through our partnership with them, we're able to purchase food at a very discounted rate and in bulk. So when you donate, when you donate $1 to Crosslines, that $1 for us is the equivalent to $5 for you at the grocery store. We can stretch it about 5 times further.
Value.
Yeah, and that's why for us, we love food donations, but we always encourage monetary because we can just stretch it further. And so Ozarks Food Harvest gives us that unique buying power that allows us to keep the shelves stocked, but to do it in a way that is very economical and efficient.
So with these increased numbers and the challenges, has it been a challenge to keep those shelves stocked, or have you been able to keep pace with the demand?
It was a challenge there in March and April. Now I think we're back to doing a pretty good job to keeping stock with that. I will say that during that period when we were seeing unprecedented numbers, we also saw just unprecedented donations. And so our community, I mean, Crosslines as a business model just doesn't always make sense, but our community has just always made it happen. And it just seems to always provide exactly what we need, exactly when we need it. And so, they did, the community was very generous and allowed us to purchase a great deal of extra food during that really busy period.
Now, going beyond food, people, when they're struggling, perhaps even some of the basics, if you have a child, for instance, the baby needs, the diapers, the formula, maybe the adult needs if somebody's older that they need to have. Do you have those types of resources for as well?
We do have those resources as well. Yep. So, we do have diapers available, and we have those, we have those kind of things for different ages, whatever season of life someone's needing assistance in different ways. We have a pretty good selection for child and babies. We have diapers, blankets, a lot of things that a new mom would need. A lot of folks in our community, the idea of a baby shower is like you might as well be talking about unicorns, like it's a foreign concept. And so we can provide what we basically a baby shower in a basket to those new moms there in our community. Yeah.
What about the needs for people who might have pets in the time? Because you can't afford to pay for your family food because of the crisis. You have dogs and cats that still are in the house.
So we don't have a real. Occasionally, we do get dog food donations, and we will give those out. But that's not normal. What we do. So one thing Crosslines does that's a little unique is all of our donations come in the back and are sorted by an amazing team of volunteers, and then we share donations with as many as 6 to 12 other organizations on a regular basis. That includes the Humane Society. So a lot of the times the pet donations we've got a little crate back there, and we have those prepared to go over to the Humane Society. We do the same with multiple other organizations in town.
So do you network with a lot of the other organizations, the social service agencies in town? Do they refer to you and you refer to them?
We do, yeah. We definitely refer to one another, and we see Crosslines as at times as a bit of a hub where we can, help. We share food with a lot of smaller pantries. We provide different things to different organizations in town as we can. And we seek to be a place where a lot of those organizations can meet. Our community room is home to a lot of Joplin meetings, foster care training classes, a lot of different things. So really seek to be a hub that brings those places together.
So if someone comes in with the crisis situation, needing the food, but they have other needs in their life, you're able to perhaps make contact or refer them to someone else. Here's another group in town who can help you.
Yeah, and that's the reason that we utilize social work students in order to provide those services, because it's just folks who are naturally in tune with those services and the opportunities in our community.
Well, tell me about social work students. You're talking about like students who are at Missouri Southern, social work majors, volunteering and helping out.
Yeah, so up until a few years ago, we have caseworkers. Everybody who comes into Crosslines would sit down with a caseworker, and that's kind of how we would determine what you were eligible for. And we would just hire caseworkers kind of off the street as folks met some basic qualifications in the background. We provided an internship opportunity for Missouri Southern social work students. Over time, we began to see that those social work students were far more qualified, even as students. And so a couple years ago, I made a shift, and we transitioned to a paid social work internship. So now we no longer have those caseworkers. We depend exclusively on Missouri Southern social work students. So during that senior year, you commit to 1 year at Crosslines, and that's a paid internship. It's about 15 hours a week. Right. And every person that comes to Crosslines sits down with one of our Missouri Southern students. And so, we have 3 Missouri Southern students currently right now.
And that's year round, so even when the classes aren't, quote, in session.
So it's June 1st to June 1st. Okay. So we just celebrated the graduation of our last 2, and we were able to add 3 this year it's really exciting. It's cool to just get to journey with different students throughout that last year. This is our 3rd year doing this, and just to get to already see like some of our alumni have turned into key leaders in our community, and to remember that year they spent at Crosslines is a really special thing.
So really getting them on their track for their future, what they want to do as a student and their career in many cases.
It is. It's a win-win for us. We get a very qualified, very and fresh. The burnout rate can be pretty high. It's nice to get new blood every year. At the same time, we social work students who've gone through Crosslines are graduating and going into their position with a really clear picture of what poverty looks like in our community. Right. They get to leave having met with thousands of people in our community who are struggling, and it really gives them a great foundation and just a leg up in their new career.
Well, volunteering-wise, you mentioned people helping out behind the scenes. Do you have a need for more volunteers? People watching might say, "Well, what can I do to help you if I have time?"
Absolutely. So we are always needing volunteers. Right now, a lot of the volunteer base we've depended on for many years are some of our most vulnerable currently. So we've had to ask some younger folks and some younger churches to step up to the plate and just try to carry on the legacy that a lot of our older established churches have built for us. So right now we are we're always interested in, it's a great opportunity for college students to come and volunteer. If you have a church group that would love to, that would be open to committing to a certain night of the week, once a month.
So you can schedule, I'll be there every Tuesday evening or certain dates like that.
That's the base of our volunteers. First Baptist so-and-so will commit to the first Tuesday of every month, or, those kind of things. Okay. So, a lot of our teams have been serving on the same day, once a month for 20 years. And so we're coming, some of those are opening up now, especially in the midst of COVID. Right. And so we need some more of those. And then the fill-in is kind of, folks who are able to just come that one day, or walk-ins. We're always needing that. And right now, especially, if there are Southern students who are looking for ways to serve in the community, definitely need younger folks to come.
Well, I know you have a website, and while we're talking, we can kind of show the website. And that's one way that people can reach you. They can find out contact information through the website. We talked about your location, but internet and social media, that's probably playing a big role. And of course, we have the website, which pretty much gives you all the information you need.
It does, yeah. So, technology is becoming more and more just something that Crosslines seeks to utilize for our advantage. So you can see on our website, we've kind of updated our policies during this COVID time there on the home page. And then, so if you go through that, you can see the things that are kind of
how to volunteer. There's an easy click there to do
how
that.
To volunteer. Little video down there that we had shot about a year ago that really paints a picture of the mission and just what it is we're trying to accomplish here in the community. So if you go on there, you can get the latest information. And then at the top of that page, if you are
we scroll back to the top of the page, so that gives you probably a lot of links to other information.
Yeah, like so up there you can see the electric assistance. If you click on that, that's where you can fill out the application where we can look. Okay. It tells you, right now we've used up our monthly rental funds, but we'll have some more next month.
But that's updated on a regular basis.
It is, yeah. So you can always find out just the most up-to-date information and exactly what you have to do to qualify for that assistance.
Great. So all that available through the internet. They don't have to come in and fill out the paper for you.
That's right.
They can set that right there. Facebook as well. Of course.
Facebook as well. So Facebook is probably our primary just up-to-date information. Facebook gets updated just about every day. So if you're wondering, is Crosslines open today? Can I, things like that. Probably the best thing to do is come to our Facebook. One great thing about having 3 social work interns is college students tend to be pretty on top of social media. So this ever since they've started, this is a lot more up to date than it used to be. So appreciate them a great deal.
Great. Now we saw in the picture there that was being shown clothing. We haven't really talked about that. So are you accepting donations for clothing now?
We have just started accepting those donations again. So we are accepting donations for clothing right now. So you can come in during the day, just during those normal business hours, and we're always super grateful for those. And everything you donate to Crosslines, nothing ever gets sold. It's given to those who need it.
Imagine with school time, there's people, the clothing for back to school, even though it's clothing for all ages. It's not just the adults. That I saw a picture with some suits, but those things that kids are going to need at school.
That's absolutely right. So as we get close to school starting, it always is one of our busiest times of the year for folks needing help with clothing and shoes and those things. We pick up every year, multiple times a year, from Raylana. Like a lot of times, all the things that don't sell at Raylana, we pick up, and we really stockpile those kind of things to help at that back to school time.
So a lot of businesses in the community are helping. You mentioned the food stores, the restaurants and so forth helping you, but a lot of organizations helping you as well as the churches and support.
A lot of businesses are super gracious to help us as well. And a lot of times we see there's kind of a connection. I mean, the basis is the local church, but a lot of time it's the local church's influence on a business that somebody in that church owns. But then sometimes it's just the graciousness of local business owners apart from any kind of attachment like that. So yeah, I mean, just a couple weeks ago, Krabby's surprised us by doing just a really great special and raising some money for us. And we get a lot of, there's just been a lot of things like that have surprised us. So a lot of business owners are super gracious to support Crosslines, and
helping you out in a lot of ways. Well, what do you enjoy the most or appreciate the most as the executive director of Crosslines in that role?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I think for me, I'm also a pastor of a local church, and for me, what makes me passionate about Crosslines is it is just evidence of and the opportunity for the local church to do what I believe the local church is called to do. So I really appreciate the opportunity to work with several churches in our community and to just get to see them, getting to live out that which they preach on Sunday. And Crosslines for 38 years has provided an opportunity to be the hands and feet in our community. So that's my favorite part about being here at Crosslines. And also, again, I grew up in a situation where the graciousness of neighbors during different seasons of my life was hugely beneficial and influential on me. And so getting to see the family get the help that they need so that they can get back on track, that's just an incredible thing to get to be a part of and witness.
I imagine you do get some feedback from some of those families a little bit later on when they say, you really helped me at this time of minute.
Absolutely. Folks are really great to share that appreciation. And a lot of our volunteers are former Crosslines clients who come to this day to help to pay back. So really appreciate that.
What do you say to someone who might be hesitant to say, I don't know if I should ask for help? Sometimes human nature is, you don't want to admit that you need help.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I always just like to remind people, all of us have needed a hand up at some point. Everybody, and that's all Crosslines is. Crosslines, we don't do handouts. We give a handout. So Crosslines is a crisis ministry. We exist to help those who are trying to help themselves and have just come across a hard time. And everybody has been in that situation at some point in their life, and oftentimes the only difference between those who have and haven't is really that social capital, having folks around. Many of us have, we've needed the same kind of help. Maybe we've just got it from family or from a church or from a great neighborhood. A lot of our folks just don't have that, and that's where Crosslines steps in to fill in the gap.
Great. Well, Rodney, I'd like to thank you very much for being with me today and sharing for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. I hope you can join me again next week at the same time. We'll see you then.